The first time it happened, I thought it was just his age. Teenagers are like that, right? Embarrassed by even their own shadow. But then it started happening more often. On trips to the grocery store after school, even at home. The boy who used to hug me in front of the neighbors now barely responds when I call him my king. And that's what I've always called him. My king. Because he is. Because even in the hardest times, even on nights I skipped dinner, so he could have lunch the next day, I looked at that boy and saw royalty. But he stopped seeing himself that way. The other day, we went to the market to buy ingredients for our rain fritters. It was our tradition. Every time it rained, I'd fry the little dough balls, and he'd help me sprinkle sugar and cinnamon. But that day, when I walked into the store wearing my blue head wrap, the one my grandmother sewed with fabric from Bahia, he lowered his head. He asked me not to talk too loud, not to call him my king in there. "Why, Miguel?" I asked softly, placing my hand on his shoulder. He only muttered, "I'll explain later, Mom." The explanation came that same day. I overheard it. I was walking down the hallway carrying clean laundry when I heard him on the phone with someone named Gustavo. That woman? She's just the house help. Like a helper. My heart slipped from my arms. It wasn't anger. It was shock. A kind of sadness I can't quite describe. As if I had become a shadow in his life. Me, the one who gave him life. Me, who carried him for 9 months with swollen feet and a world that kept telling me I was alone. Me, who slept so many nights on the living room floor so he could have a warm mattress in his room. Now I was the house help. I went back to my room, set the clothes on the chair, and sat on the edge of the bed. I stayed there for a while. I didn't even cry. I just thought. It's a phase, I told myself. He'll get through it. He'll remember who I am. He'll remember the smell of the fritters. The lap that was always there. But time passed and nothing changed. At school, another mother told me there was going to be a student performance. An important event. All the parents were invited to be part of the term's closing celebration. I got excited. It was my chance to see him shine. Miguel had always been smart, talkative, gifted with words. I pictured him reading a poem, telling a story, acting. That day, I made a special lunch, saffron rice, stewed chicken, colorful salad, all just the way he likes. When he got home, I sat with him at the table, my heart full of hope. I heard about the presentation, my son. I'd really love to go. See you on stage, can I? He stopped chewing, looked at me with distant eyes, like I'd just said something inappropriate. Mom, you don't need to go. It's no big deal. Only the other parents are going anyway. But I'm your mother too, aren't I? He looked away, grabbed his juice, swallowed hard. It's just, I don't know, Mom. Those things are kind of boring, you know? I understood. Of course I understood. It was the same look from the market. The same cutting silence of someone who's ashamed but doesn't have the courage to say it outright. I washed the dishes after lunch with trembling hands. Each plate I rinsed felt like a piece of me quietly breaking. That night I didn't sleep. I lay there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling and wondering where I went wrong. Was it when I didn't buy the expensive sneakers to pay the electric bill? Was it when I said no to a new phone? Or was it really because of my head wrap, my skin, my way of speaking? The truth is, being a Black single mother is fighting two wars every day, one against the world and one inside your home. The first, we've learned to face with a smile and faith. The second, that one hurts more. Because when prejudice comes from within, when it comes from your own blood, the wound runs deep. But I didn't argue with him. I didn't push. I didn't yell. I simply accepted. Because a mother's love doesn't compete for pride. I knew that sooner or later, the world would show him who I am. And more than that, who he is. Because he might want to hide his bloodline, be ashamed of the head wrap, even try to forget where he came from, but roots, my son, roots always find a way to bloom. The day before the presentation, I oiled my hair with Dend, braided it tightly, and laid out my head wrap. He left without knowing I was going. And I left the house with a steady heart. Because a mother's love doesn't need permission, it needs presence. And that day, I would be present. But in my own way. Not as the humble mother, not as the woman ignored at the market, but as who I am, a Black woman, resilient, owner of a story worth telling. The next morning, after Miguel left for school without even really looking at me, I sat at the kitchen table with a cold coffee and a warm heart. Not with anger, because we don't get angry at our children. It was a different kind of heat, a weight on my shoulders, as if I had spent the whole night carrying a bag of silence. I sat there, staring at the wall clock, listening to the ticking like someone hears a drum beating in the middle of their chest. I can't explain it, but I had a feeling something was going to change. Maybe inside me, maybe inside him, but something had to change. I stood up slowly, washed the cup, and went to the cabinet where I keep the scraps of cloth and fabric I inherited from my grandmother. I chose the red turban with golden details, the same one I wore at my mother's funeral. That fabric had history, and today I was going to use it to tell mine. During the day, I cleaned the house as usual. I swept the yard, hung clothes, washed the dishes left from breakfast. But my mind was at the school. I wondered if he was nervously rehearsing, if he would think of me while reciting his lines, if he'd feel that flutter in the stomach we feel when we know someone special is in the audience. But I wasn't going to be there because he allowed me to be. I would be there for myself. Because there is no greater pain than being forgotten by someone you've never once forgotten. In the middle of the afternoon, I took the bus. I stood the whole way, one hand gripping the metal bar and the other holding the turban, as if that fabric were my shield. At every stop, I felt the stares, some out of curiosity, some in judgment. But I've learned to walk through this world with my head held high. My turban is a crown, and today I was going to wear it as one. I arrived early. The event was set to begin at 6 p.m., but by 5, I was already there in the back of the school, waiting to be called. The coordinator, Mrs. Sylvia, welcomed me with a big smile and a warm hug. "It's an honor to have you with us, Mrs. Ruth." I swallowed the emotion, just nodded and said, "The honor is mine." It always is, when I get to say to other people's kids what I wish someone would say to mine. While I waited, I listened to the murmurs coming from the auditorium. Laughter, hurried footsteps, students' names whispered between seats. From time to time, I heard Miguel lost in the mix. And my heart tightened. Did he know I was there? Did he suspect it? Did he remember my scent, my voice, my presence in all the small victories of his life? Because that's what hurts most, when a child forgets that we were there before everything. Before the fancy school, before the white friends, before the English books. We were there for the first steps, the midnight fevers, the elementary school exams. And now, all of a sudden, we become no one. At 6:15, the lights went out and the stage lit up. I watched everything from the side, hidden between a curtain and a cardboard set. I saw my son walking onto the stage with his classmates. I saw him smile nervously, adjust his collar. He looked taller, more like a man, and yet still so mine. His group recited a piece about cultural identity. Ironic, really. Those words he spoke so fluently, did he feel them? Did he grasp the contradiction of talking about pride in our roots, while hiding his own? At the end of the performance, parents clapped proudly. I saw mothers standing to take pictures, fathers recording with their phones. And I saw him, Miguel, scanning the room, looking for someone. Looking. I know who. But he didn't see me. The principal took the microphone and thanked everyone. Then she announced, "And to close this very special evening, we have an honored guest. A woman who represents the strength, ancestry, and resilience of so many Brazilian mothers. Founder of a social project that has already changed the lives of dozens of young people in the outskirts. A woman who never stopped believing in the power of education. Please welcome to the stage, Mrs. Ruth de Conceição Alves." I heard the applause even before I stepped onto the stage. But what pierced me was Miguel's silence. I searched for him with my eyes. And there he was, frozen, wide-eyed, his mouth slightly open, as if the ground had vanished beneath him. I walked to the center of the stage slowly, with my turban steady and my step sure. I took the microphone with hands that trembled on the inside but appeared strong on the outside. And I spoke. Good evening. My name is Ruth. I am a single mother, a black woman, a Northeasterner, daughter of a maid and granddaughter of a washerwoman. I was born hearing that my place was in someone else's kitchen. I grew up hearing that I should speak softly, walk with my head down, and be grateful for any crumbs. But I chose a different path. I chose to study, I chose to fight, and most of all, I chose to love unconditionally. Being a mother was my greatest revolution. I saw teary eyes. I saw parents nodding. I saw teachers moved. And I saw Miguel, frozen, hands on his lap, eyes red. I continued. Sometimes, our children want to hide us. They want to erase our marks, our color, our origins. But what they don't know is that we are the mirror that will show them their true reflection. And when they look inside, truly, they will find they're the strength of mothers who never gave up. Pause. Deep breath. I am the mother of a wonderful boy. And even when he forgets about me, I remain here. Because mothers don't give up. Mothers don't hide. Mothers endure. The applause was strong, long, full of a warmth that broke me apart inside. But I didn't cry. I saved it for later. I smiled, gave thanks, and left the stage with my dignity intact. On the way out, I didn't look for Miguel. I grabbed my purse, walked to the gate, and left knowing that now he saw me. Maybe he didn't understand me yet. Maybe he was still confused. But now he knew. And sooner or later he would come. And when he did, I'd be here. With my turban, my sandals, and an open heart. I always was. I always will be. The next day, the sun rose as it always does, without asking whether we slept well or spent the night staring at the ceiling. I was up before the neighbor's chickens, slowly sweeping the yard, as if trying to sweep away the memories of the night before. But some things can't be swept away. They stick to the corners of the soul, waiting for us to face them head-on. The talk had stirred a lot of people. The school principal thanked me personally, eyes glistening, and with a tight hug. Some mothers messaged me on my phone, praising it, asking how they could join my project. Even a teacher, that pale one who had never said more than a good morning to me, looked at me with respect as he left the school. But the one who mattered most said nothing. Miguel didn't come home with me. He didn't look for me in the hallways. He didn't even reply to the message I left on his phone. Son, I just wanted you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. I'm here, like I've always been. Your mother. Silence. And this time, the silence hurt in a different way. Because now he saw me. He knew who I was. He knew what I had done. And even so, he didn't come. I kept myself busy on Saturday. I did laundry, swept again, cooked, organized the house. But deep down, I was waiting. Every noise at the gate made my heart stumble. Every message on my phone made my chest burn. And nothing. Not a single sign. On Sunday night, I sat on the porch hammock with a blanket and a cup of fennel tea. The sky was clear, starry. And as I looked up, I remembered my mother. The words she used to say when I cried over someone. Daughter, you don't lose what's rooted. It may twist, it may hide underground, but one day, it sprouts again. That was when I heard the footsteps. First timid, then more certain. I would recognize that walk anywhere in the world. Miguel. He stopped at the gate. Didn't come in right away. Just stood there, head down, like he didn't know where to begin. Like he was trying to find the boy who once called me Queen of the Rain Cake. I got up slowly, said nothing, just opened the gate with a gentle gesture. He walked in, small steps, like someone stepping on sacred ground. When he reached the porch, he looked at me, and his eyes, they were swollen, red. As if he had cried inwardly the end of a childhood he had pushed into the abyss himself. Mom, he murmured, voice faint. I just looked at him, waited. He took a deep breath, as if about to dive. I lied, Mom. I told everyone you were just a worker here, that you were my mom. Just because I was ashamed. Pause. His words fell like shards of glass between us. They didn't hurt like they once did. Now, it was a different kind of pain, the kind that was once a thorn, now just a sensitive scar. I didn't want people to know my mom was different. That she wore a head wrap, spoke loudly, wore flip-flops to the market. I wanted to be like the others. And to do that, I had to hide you. But he choked. Yesterday, when you got up on that stage, I felt so ashamed. But not of you. Of me. For the first time, I was ashamed of who I had become. His voice trembled. And the tears came. Without fear. Without shame. Finally, without disguise. Mom, forgive me. I'm your son. And you are the best part of me. I stepped closer, slowly. Held his face in both hands. The same hands that once held him, still covered in blood, fresh from my womb, and promised to care for him till the end. You don't need to ask for forgiveness, my son, I whispered. Because a mother's love doesn't hold grudges. It feels, it hurts, but it never gives up. Miguel collapsed into my lap, sobbing into my chest. Like when he was little and came running to me after a nightmare. We stayed like that for a while. I stroked his hair, and he trembled through his sobs. Until he pulled away slightly and said, "When the principal called you the guest of honor, I felt something in my chest, like the world had turned upside down. Because there, in front of everyone, you stood up. You talked about me without exposing me. You spoke of your pain without attacking anyone. And even when you could have humiliated me, you chose to teach." He took a deep breath. I've never felt so small and so proud. In the days that followed, something began to change in Miguel. Small things. He started calling me Mom again. Wanted to learn how to wrap a head wrap, said he wanted to do a school project on ancestry. Brought a black friend over to the house. And for the first time, I saw my son speak proudly about me. One day, his teacher called. Said Miguel wanted to present a project at the upcoming cultural fair called Invisible Mothers. He was going to start by telling my story. I almost hung up the phone crying. One afternoon, he came home from school with a poster board in hand. On it, a big title, "My Mother Taught Me to See," and a photo of us, one he took from an old picture frame on the shelf. "Can I glue this on?" he asked. "Yes, my son. You can do anything." And when he glued that photo on, he glued my whole heart with it. Today, Miguel walks beside me at the market, holds my hand without fear, without shame, calls me Mom with the head wrap, and says it like it's a title of nobility. And when classmates make fun, he doesn't stay quiet. He speaks with firmness, with conviction, like someone who's learned, through pain and through love, that roots are not cut. They are honored. The wound is still there, yes. But now it's a scar. A mark of someone who lived, suffered, forgave, and moved on. Because a true mother doesn't want a perfect child. She wants one who returns, who looks her in the eye, who embraces her. And he came back. My son came back to me. And when he hugs me, I know I'm no longer invisible. I am what I've always been. I'm the mother with the head wrap. And now, that's a source of pride. It's been 4 years since that night at the school. 4 years since Miguel stopped seeing me as a nuisance to be hidden and started seeing me as someone he needed to remember, to honor, and above all, to truly get to know. 4 years since my son stopped running from his own features and began drawing a new path using the colors of our story. Today, as he packs his backpack for the last day of high school, I watch him from the kitchen. The patchy beard growing on his chin, his shoulders broader, his eyes more resolute. His face still carries the same shape as when he was a child, but the expression, oh, that has changed. Now, it's a man's. A man who's learned that respect begins at home, and that the first woman worthy of applause is the one who brought him into the world. Mom, have you seen my blue turban? The one with the tribal print. He shouts from his room. Yes, he wears a turban now. Not every day. But on special occasions like today, a discussion circle at school about identity and belonging. He signed up as one of the speakers. Said he'd tell the story of the mother who became a mirror. That's what he named it. It's right here, Miguel. I reply, handing him the fabric with a hidden smile. He takes it gently, like someone holding something sacred. He wraps it around his head with the skill of someone who learned from the source. How does it look? Beautiful, my son. You look just like your grandfather when he danced maracatu. He smiles, doesn't look away. And in that gaze is everything I need. Respect, pride, gratitude. Things you don't impose, you cultivate. And I cultivated them. With tears, sleepless nights, and quiet battles. After Miguel acknowledged me publicly, a lot changed around here. First, within us. Then, outside. He started going to the neighborhood cultural center, got involved with the local Black youth group. He created a video channel with friends where they talk about self-esteem, racism, life in the outskirts, and the future. At first, they got 10 views. Today, it's thousands. But what moves me isn't the numbers. It's the confidence in his voice. The clarity when he says, "The first time I felt ashamed of my mother was the last. Because I realized I was ashamed of myself. And she's the one who taught me to love who I am." Does it hurt to hear that? Yes. But it also heals. One of these days, we went shopping for clothes for a job interview. We walked into a fancy store, the kind where the saleswoman sizes you up before even saying good afternoon. She looked at me, in my turban and simple sandals, and turned her face away. But before I could say a word, Miguel turned to her, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "This is my mother. I work for her. I grew up on her sweat. Please show us your most expensive clothes." The woman swallowed hard. I held back both a laugh and tears. In the end, we left with 2 shopping bags and a heart full of pride. These days, people stop me on the street. Some because of the speech I gave. Others because of Miguel's channel. They want to know how I raised a son like that. I always say the same thing. With the courage to be who I am. Even when he wasn't ready to see it. Because that's what we do as mothers. We stand firm. Not out of pride, but out of love. A love that doesn't shout, but doesn't fade either. A love that bleeds quietly, but never disappears. A love that one day blooms, even if planted in concrete. For his 18th birthday, I wrote him a letter. Left it on his nightstand. He read it the next day. Cried again. Hugged me and said it would be the last time he apologized. And I told him, "You don't need to anymore, my son. Now it's time to walk. Time to plant for others what we've learned together." And he's been planting. Today, Miguel is a role model, at school, in the community, even online. But to me, he's still my boy. The one who once said I was just the cleaning lady and who now calls me matriarch. Who recently introduced me at an event as my greatest teacher. Who keeps a photo of me on his phone with the caption, "Queen in a turban, my eternal pride." Yesterday, I was invited to speak at a university. Topic: The Invisible Mothers of Brazilian Education. I walked into the room in the same old sandals, the red turban that's become my symbol, and my head held high. At the back of the room he was there, Miguel, now a young adult, giving me a standing ovation. After the talk, he came up to me and said, "One day I hid you. Today I want the world to see you." I smiled, and I thought maybe, deep down, that's what I had always wanted, for him to see me. And by seeing me, to see himself. Today, when I look back on our past, I don't feel anger. I feel gratitude, because it was on that bumpy road that we learned to love again. We learned that shame can be overcome by truth, that ignorance retreats when met with steady affection, and that roots don't deny their trees. They uphold them. If you asked me what I would say to other mothers going through what I went through, I'd say, stand firm. Stay on your feet. Wear your turban, your sandals, your voice. Even if your child isn't ready to see you yet, one day they will. And when that day comes, be a home, be a shelter, not revenge. Because what transforms is not the scream. It's the example. And if you asked me what I'd say to the children who hide their mothers, I'd say, be brave enough to look in the mirror and ask, who am I really ashamed of? Her or myself? Because a mother isn't a burden. She's a root. And without roots, no one blooms. Now, with the sun setting outside and my son saying goodbye with a kiss on the cheek, I catch myself looking in the mirror. I meet my own eyes, my skin, my story. And for the first time in many years, I think, you made it, Ruth. Not because they applauded, but because he came back. And now you're not just seen, you're recognized. And that, my friend, that is everything.